So, Thursday night happened. What's up, everybody? It's Taco on a somber Monday here as the Oregon Ducks losing for the first time this season in particularly sad and humiliating fashion to the Stanford Cardinal 26-20. As you can hear a little bit, my voice is still a little bit croaky from screaming my head off in Stanford Stadium on Thursday night. And really just not a fun game to watch at all, as I wouldn't call this one a blowout by any stretch, because give the Ducks credit, they did rally back down 23-0 at the end of the third quarter and made it a game that they could have possibly stolen if they had recovered that last onside kick. Driven down for a touchdown, we'd be talking about one of the more miraculous wins in Oregon football history. But that was not the case, and Oregon goes down with their first loss of the 2013 season. This was a game that, like I said, it wasn't particularly a blowout. That's not what I would call it. But Oregon was convincingly beat by Stanford on both sides of the ball. In particular, the run game, Tyler Gaffney had 45 carries for Stanford, and the Cardinals really just had their way with the Oregon defense. Only 13 passes attempted in the game for Kevin Hogan. The Cardinal didn't hide what they were going to do. They just said, here's what we're going to do. We're going to stack it up, and we're going to run right at you, and you're not going to be able to stop it. And they were right. And on the other side of the ball, Marcus Mariota, clearly not 100% with that knee injury, wasn't running the ball like he could have been. And the offense really just never got into a rhythm until it was too late. Some things I took away from this game, there are a number of things that happen in a football game that, if one of those things happens, then your team's going to need some breaks elsewhere or some really, really good fortune elsewhere to be able to win. If you allow your opponent to convert 2/3 of their third down conversions, you're going to have some trouble winning. If you only have 62 yards rushing as a team, you're going to have some trouble winning. If you turn the ball over twice in opposing territory, you're going to have trouble winning. And if you get into the red zone 4 times and you only score once, you're going to have some trouble winning. If any one of those things happens to a team, you need some breaks elsewhere. All of those happened to Oregon, and the result was a particularly ugly loss. We talked about last week Oregon needing to do some damage and hold Stanford to minimal gains on first and second down, forcing them into third and long opportunities and making Kevin Hogan throw the ball in obvious passing downs, and trying to avoid those third and shorts, because on those third and shorts, Stanford's just going to run the ball right up the gut, and they can get 3 to 4 yards at will, and it's not going to be a good formula for stopping them. We saw 21 third downs for Stanford. They converted 14. That is a very, very good number. On 3rd and 7 or longer, Stanford was only 1 of 4 in this game. If you take it even closer, 3rd and 4 or longer, Stanford was only 5 of 10, which is a good number. If you're averaging 50% of your third downs converted, you're doing pretty well. You're giving your team a chance to win. But 3rd and 3 and less, Stanford was 9 of 11. 11 of those 21 third downs for Stanford came at 3 yards or shorter, and they converted 9 of them. And that's just not going to do it. The Cardinal held the ball for over 42 minutes in this game. I'm not one that necessarily thinks time of possession is that significant a stat, but when you've got that big of a disparity, 42 to 17-ish, that's a pretty big deal, especially the way the Cardinal was running the ball. And the really other thing that I have to question is Scott Frost and the offensive play calling. In 2012, one of the big things that we took away from that Stanford loss last year was that Chip Kelly was being pretty stubborn with his play calling. A lot of inside runs, even though it wasn't working. Chip's the kind of personality that's like, no, this is going to work. We just have to keep doing it and doing it and doing it until it does work. It ended up really not working in that game as Oregon lost. This time, on the opening drive, Mariota throws the ball 7 times, only 1 run. Only 18 designed running plays in this game out of 58 total offensive plays. 58. not enough offensive plays, first of all. But only 18 design runs in this game. Oregon never tried to run the ball. They pretty much said, okay, we don't think we can run the ball against you, so we're just not going to do it, and we're going to have Mariota throw. And Mariota's on a gimpy wheel and didn't have all that much mobility in the pocket. He only had 3 scrambles for positive yardage, and he was sacked 3 times. And they never even tried to get a running game going, with only 9 carries in the first half, 9 carries in the second half. Those carries averaged a little bit over 4 yards a carry, so not terrible, but not good either. But really just never given a thought to running the ball when this team is predicated upon this spread read option running attack. 4th down and goal in the first quarter, tied 0-0. That's a position where I like Oregon to go for it. I think inside the 5 with this offense, you should go for it every time. And there are plenty of plays in Oregon's playbook that go for 4 yards, or should go for 4 yards. And the play call is a fade route to 5'11" Braylon Addison. I really question that play call. There's so many things that Oregon could have done there, and a fade route to a guy who isn't Calvin Johnson, isn't Andre Johnson, isn't Marquise Lee, isn't one of these big giant wide receivers. I question that play call a lot. Oregon didn't get back into the end zone until the 4th quarter, and they didn't get back into the red zone until a DeAnthony Thomas fumble and a Marcus Mariota fumble, and then it was 23-0 Cardinal. So a very disappointing result. Oregon falls to number 6 in the BCS standings, but pretty much for Oregon, the BCS standings are kind of moot at this point because they need a lot of help if they want to even think about a possible national championship appearance. They are behind the 8 ball in the Pac-12 North. They need Stanford to lose one of their 2 remaining conference games to either USC or to Cal. Otherwise, Oregon will not win the Pac-12 for the 2nd year in a row. And the best they can hope for is to win these last 3 games, finish with 11-1 record, and then hope that a BCS bowl game takes them as an at-large team, which if they're a 1-loss team, they will most likely get taken and go to their 5th straight BCS game. Yeah, that's all I got, man. It was rough last week. I mean, if I had told you that a team in green and gold would go out and beat a team in red and white by 25 points last Thursday, you'd be like, okay, sure, great, that sounds right. That's something Oregon would do. Nope, it was Baylor. By the way, if you want to jump on a team that's still in the national championship hunt, jump on the Baylor Bears. Arguably as fun to watch as Oregon this year. They actually have a better offense statistically than Oregon. And if they go through their November schedule, they've still got games against Texas Tech, TCU, Oklahoma State is a big one. Then if they go through that schedule undefeated as the Big 12 champ, they have a legit case at a national title. And I'd rather watch them in that game than Ohio State or Stanford or Alabama. Like, if it was a Florida State-Baylor national championship game, I would be a happy camper. The other thing we can root for is if Baylor doesn't make the national championship game, Baylor-Oregon in a BCS bowl game, because Vegas would explode. The over-under would probably be set at something like 110 points. It would be ridiculous. The Ducks look to bounce back from their loss by taking on Utah this Saturday afternoon at Autzen Stadium. The Utes have been a pretty decent team this year. They've beaten Stanford. They gave UCLA a big scare. They gave Arizona State a big scare last week. Fortunately for Oregon fans, this game is at Autzen, and the Utes have been a different team away from Salt Lake City. They only scored 3 points against USC in LA. They lost to Arizona in Tucson. So this isn't the same team, the same world-beating team that can contend with anybody when they're away from home, and that's the kind of team that Oregon needs to really shake off this loss and get back to their winning ways. Check back with us on Wednesday and Friday for previews of the Oregon-Utah matchup. For AddictedToQuack.com, this is Takimoto. Go Ducks.